Hola chicos, bienvenidos a apuntes 4.3 del subjuntivo. Vamos a continuar con los usos del subjuntivo. Bueno, espero que ustedes estén escuchando con cuidado y estén tomando apuntes excelentes. Bueno, here we go. Without further ado, so we are going to continue with the uses of subjunctive. So this one today is a subjunctive with conjunctions, and this screenshot on the slide is from the video from Monday. If you haven't already watched it, I would change your plans if I were you and watch this first and come back to this later. It clarifies what the subjunctive essentially is, what it's used for in the Spanish language, because in English we sort of have the subjunctive, but it's not nearly quite the same. Alright, so maybe come back to these notes later if you haven't already watched this. Alright, so conjunctions are words or phrases that connect other words and clauses and sentences. We use them all the time in English. You may not be able to identify them. That's okay. We just want you to identify them in Spanish now. Certain conjunctions commonly introduce adverbial clauses. So those describe how, why, when, and where an action takes place. So here's an example. Our main clause is, vamos a visitar a Carlos. Antes de que. Here's our conjunction connecting this to an adverbial clause. Our adverbial clause is, regrese a California. So there we start with the subjunctive. Alright, with certain conjunctions, the subjunctive is used to express a hypothetical situation. It also expresses uncertainty as to whether an action or event will take place. A condition that may or may not be fulfilled. So this kind of slide here is talking about the essence of the subjunctive, which really is doubt, uncertainty, nothing concrete. Nothing has for sure happened. That's what really the subjunctive is. So all of these might make sense. Hypothetical, kind of doubtful, maybe if I was in this situation kind of thing. Uncertainty, very blatantly lack of certainty, and may or may not be fulfilled, could happen, could not. Alright, here's a couple examples. Voy a dejar un recado en caso de que Gustavo me llame. So I'm going to leave a message in case Gustavo calls me. I'm not really sure if Gustavo's going to call me or not, but in case he does, I want him to know X, Y, or Z. Voy al supermercado para que tengas algo de comer. I'm going to the store so that you'll have something to eat. Alright. So here's a list of conjunctions that always require the subjunctive after it. You will want to know these, and you'll want to know these as the ones that require subjunctive after it. A menos que, antes de que, con tal de que, en caso de que, para que, sin que. All of these have an essence of doubt about them, an essence of uncertainty. Here's some examples. Algunos animales van a morir a menos que haya leyes para protegerlos. So some animals are going to die unless we have laws to protect them. There's doubt there. There's uncertainty. If we don't do this, this could happen. Ellos nos llevan a la selva para que veamos las plantas tropicales. They're taking us so that we may see the tropical plants. No guarantees there, in hopes that we see the plants. Alright, so we did talk about this a little bit before when we introduced the subjunctive. Sometimes I would say, go back to Spanish 1. You've done this stuff before. Go back to Spanish 1. So you'll use the infinitive. Hopefully you already know this, but the infinitive is a word that ends with AR, ER, IR. It's a non-conjugated verb, right? So use the infinitive, not que, and then the subjunctive after prepositions like antes de, para, sin, when there is no change of subject. So what I usually tell students, don't overthink it. If it makes sense to keep an infinitive, by all means. You should be able to trust your gut at this point. Alright, so in English, I've talked to a lot of students about this actually while we were still in class, but we use the ing, dancing, singing, going, a lot more in English than they do in Spanish. So while you may use that in English with these phrases, in Spanish you don't. It just doesn't make sense for them, okay? In that language. Te llamamos antes de salir de casa. We will call you before leaving the house. So nosotros is the only subject. Use the infinitive. We will call you. If you're asking, what about you? It's not a subject. Okay? Te llamamos mañana antes de que salgas. Oh, there's two subjects there now. We will call you tomorrow before you leave. So you leave, one subject. We call, another subject. So nosotros and tú are subjects there. Therefore, we'll use the subjunctive antes de que instead of just antes de. Hopefully that makes sense. We're not asking you to be subject matter experts on this. Just start your awareness. We'll do plenty of practice, okay? So, not trying to tear up your whole entire world, but that list we had before, go back there, was of always, always, always needed subjunctive after those conjunctions. This one, it may or may not be followed by the subjunctive. It may be followed by indicative, okay? Here's some examples from la fotonovela. Voy a formar un club de ecología tan pronto como vuelva al DF. Cuando veo basura, la recojo. So one of those was subjunctive, one of those was indicative. We'll get to why in a little bit, but here are the conjunctions that you have to decide. And a lot of times it's just the speaker's decision, alright? So, cuando, después de que, en cuanto, hasta que, tan pronto como. So there's 5 that may or may not be subjunctive, may or may not be indicative, depending on, we'll get to that in a minute. So, with those above, on that last slide, those 5, use the subjunctive in the subordinate clause if the main clause, so the first part of the sentence, expresses a future action or a command. And if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense because a future action is not certain. It's not set in stone. A command, same thing. If I boss you around, drill sergeant, you may or may not follow through the action. I can't control that. It may or may not happen the way the speaker hopes. Here's some examples. Vamos a resolver el problema cuando desarrollemos nuevas tecnologías. So, these colors match for a reason. This is a future action. We are going to solve the problem when we develop new technologies. When? Not sure. That's kind of why that connotation of doubt, uncertainty, etc. Reciclen las botellas después de que ustedes tomen sus refrescos. So this is a command here, ustedes command, hopefully you could recognize that. Reciclen, recycle, please. The bottles after you drink your soft drinks, right? You're leaving the cafeteria or a restaurant you're getting bottled pop from, might say that, and you may or may not follow through. It's not certain. Alright, the opposite, when we use the indicative, what you learned in Spanish 1, so with these 5 conjunctions, the indicative is used when the subordinate clause in the main clause expresses an action that habitually happens or that happened in the past. And this also makes sense if you critically think about it. If it habitually happens, it's quite a bit more certain. Every Sunday, we do this. Oh, yeah. It's not really doubtful, not really something I'm uncertain about. Or if it happened in the past, well, yep. If it happened in the past, we can confirm or deny it. So, contaminan los ríos cuando construyen nuevos edificios. It's a fact here. They pollute the rivers when they build new buildings. Contaminaron el río cuando construyeron ese edificio. They polluted the river when they built that building. So this is habitually happens, like in general, you can say that they pollute the rivers when they build new buildings. And this is something that happened in the past. They polluted the river, a specific time. They polluted the river when they built the building. All right, to summarize, with these special 5 conjunctions, we use a subjunctive if we're saying the action in the subordinate clause hasn't happened yet or may not happen. That doubt element. If I were you, I'd write doubt, uncertainty somewhere over there too, because it's just not sure. And then indicative, use indicative if we're saying the action in the subordinate clause already happened or usually / generally happens. Okay. Please, I recommend pause the video, write this in your notes, conceptualize. If you only get one thing, these 2 boxes, so that you know, yep, it already hasn't happened, may or may not happen, or yep, it usually happens, or it happened in the past. So pause, jot this down. It's not in your notes. Go ahead and do that. Take a second. All right, so I'm going to go through the first 2 with you, and then you're going to pause and take this on your own. So, voy a estudiar ecología cuando blank a la universidad. So, first of all, you need to, step 1, look at the conjunction and decide, is it going to be a may or may not require subjunctive, or is it going to be, yep, there's going to be subjunctive here no matter what, unless it's a definitive type thing. And then if it's this one, you're going to look at whether it happened in the past or hasn't happened yet. All right, so voy a estudiar. Well, okay, sorry, back up a second. Cuando is our conjunction. All right, so, yep, it may or may not require the subjunctive. So we need to look at the rest of the sentence, the first part, I mean. Voy a estudiar tells us if it's going to require the subjunctive or not. Voy a estudiar, I am going to study. That's in the future. That may or may not happen, so therefore, are we going to use subjunctive or indicative? Hopefully, you decided subjunctive, and we hopefully know how to conjugate. Ir in the subjunctive would be vaya. Voy would be the indicative. All right, number 2. No podemos evitar el cambio climático a menos que todos blank juntos. All right, let's decide what is our conjunction here. A menos que. Which one is it? Is it a required subjunctive or may or may not? Look at your notes. Hopefully you see it's a one that requires subjunctive. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Yep, we're gonna do the trabajen. All right, so do the rest on your own. There's gonna be a second video to look at. Buena suerte, look at your notes. First, do the step of looking at the conjunction, deciding if it's may or may not, or if it requires it, and go along with that. Ciao.